Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Storey, and I'm the Director of Grassroots and Digital Advocacy for the American Bar Association. And thank you so much for joining us for ABA Day 2025. We're excited this year for our new expanded reach in ABA Day, and we appreciate our ABA Day Planning Committee Chair, Gene Vance, for allowing us to start to include other sections and entities that have bills that are moving through Congress that we can highlight and really spend some time focusing in on. I'm joined today by our wonderful IP section, including our IP section chair, Susan McGahan, and one of the IP section's absolute rock stars, Andrew Kaufman. Susan, if you don't mind introducing yourself and maybe telling us a little bit about what the IP section has done to clear the way to allow us to really focus on some of these bills.
Thank you, Eric. I'd be pleased to. My name is Susan McGahan. I have the honor of serving as the chair of the American Bar Association section of intellectual property. I'm proud to say we are the oldest section of the ABA, and we are 12,000 members strong. We have areas of all parts of the law, patent, trademarks, copyrights, trade secret, represented by various industries, outside counsel, some of the largest firms. So we have a talent pool that would match no other. And we took upon ourselves in the fall of this year to tackle deepfakes. And Andrew, my rockstar task force chair, will go into it further. But in February, at the House of Delegates, the ABA adopted a resolution put before by the American Bar Association of Intellectual Property. This resolution called for the ABA, which it adopted, Congress to enact legislation that would create new protections for individuals to prevent the unauthorized use of one's voice, visual, likeness, or image, while balancing a number of other important considerations like First Amendment rights, state rights of publicity and privacy, technological advancements and creation, and potential third-party liability. That resolution was passed. We had other sections join us. So we are ready to help Congress push legislation through.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Susan. And Andrew Kaufman, I know we are here to talk about deep fakes, and really more specific in deep fakes is digital replicas. And that is an issue that we really want to hone in on here. In a little bit, I'll might ask you to designate between the two. I know the difference is very subtle, but it is important because we do have a few different bills moving through Congress. So for those who are maybe less familiar, could you explain what digital replicas are and how generative AI is making them more common?
Sure. Good morning. I'm Andrew Kaufman. I'm an intellectual property attorney at Phelps Dunbar, and really appreciate Susan allowing me to work on this issue. And while everybody's called me a rock star this morning, I really relied on a team of people to help get us here. And the only thing that makes me a rock star is I did start my career representing mostly rock stars, and that's how I became an intellectual property attorney. And there's some of the people that are the most concerned about digital replicas, deep fakes. So when you talk about a digital replica, it's really any digital representation that portrays an individual in a realistic way, that realistically mimics how they look, how they talk, how they sound, how they move, using digital technology. But the person depicted didn't actually engage in the conduct that is depicted. And that can be really good. That can be Robert De Niro in The Irishman, when Martin Scorsese uses digital technology to make him look younger, and Robert De Niro's consented to that, and it helps make a great film. And it can be really bad when it is intimate images of Taylor Swift that 20-something million people saw on Twitter in the 19 hours before it got taken down.
Thank you. Could you tell us maybe what current intellectual property laws apply to digital replicas? Are copyright and trademark laws enough to address these challenges, or is something else needed?
Well, I would say there are three buckets that can apply. They don't apply in every instance. So you obviously have a copyright issue because some digital replicas are created by, we're going to take a picture of the president and we're going to make it seem like his lips are moving and he's saying a thing that he absolutely would not say, right? Or we're going to do that to another individual. And the person that owns the copyright in the photograph may have some ability to stop that use because it's an infringement. But there may be a defense that it's a fair use too, right? It could be that digital replica is used in a way that is political speech. It's not meant to trick or confuse people. It's meant to illustrate a political point. And maybe that's a transformative use that is okay under copyright law. Digital replicas that are used in advertising may bring up issues with the Lanham Act to say, this is a false endorsement under the Lanham Act, to say, company X has paid this celebrity $100 million to endorse their product, and now he's endorsing their competitor's product. That's a trademark issue potentially, or at least an issue under the Lanham Act, even if it's not exactly a trademark issue. But then you also have the state laws of right of publicity, primarily in some states that handle these issues under the right of privacy. And generally, you and I, whether one of us is going to be the star that replaces Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible series, or we're just a regular person taking our kid to the park, we have the right under most state law not to have our image used in a commercial manner without our consent. But then that potentially only gets to commercial digital replicas and not these kind of revenge digital replicas that you might see with intimate images or people making offensive statements that they would not actually make themselves.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Susan, I'll let you be the one who replaces Tom Cruise, if you don't mind. But from a legal standpoint, what types of harm do unauthorized digital replicas cause to individuals, particularly public figures or performers?
Right. It's a laundry list: defamation, violation of privacy, the right of publicity, emotional distress, intellectual property infringement, whether copyright violations, trademark, consumer deception, potential for fraud. The list goes on. It is particularly to public figures where, they want to control their NIL, the name, image, and likeness. I don't have to tell you how these athletes, college athletes right now, are getting tremendous amount of sums of money for their name, image, and likeness. For performers, perhaps the use of digital replicas to promote songs the singers didn't sing. How about for defamation, taking part of, calls which call into their character or their reputation? Pornographic, using, as we've seen with Taylor Swift, digital replicas of students in, sexually explicit videos or public performers. Public misinformation is a big one too. Videos depicting them engaged in illegal or off-putting conduct. We'll go into specific examples later on, but scams, the ability to use digital replicas of individuals trusted by certain groups to promote products or what have you. So really a problem across the board, from, the teacher in a classroom that could either be harmed by it or cause harm with their students, all the way up to public performers like Scarlett Johansson, Taylor Swift, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden. It goes on, who has been the subject of these digital replicas.
I guess I never really thought how far it goes. I mean, entertainment and music is obviously included in that, but I never really thought of industries like healthcare, which you, Andrew, work closely with. How are those experiencing the effects of AI-generated digital replicas?
Well, a couple of things. One thing is Sanjay Gupta, who is a medical doctor and on CNN and has a large following. CNN has worked very hard to take down digital replicas of him that are hawking medical products that he does not endorse, whether or not they're scam medical products or not, we don't know. But I know that from hospitals we've represented, during the COVID pandemic, that, patients would come in and make demands of certain treatments and say, I want to get this treatment, even though there's no physician employed at the hospital or with privileges at the hospital that wanted to provide that treatment. And what we do see is digital replicas giving people medical advice, giving people financial advice, giving people advice as if they're just another person on social media, that one-to-one, word-of-mouth advice. But in fact, they're just digital replicas. And we don't know if that digital replica was made by a mile from here who really believes that and just thinks a more handsome version of himself would sell it better, or if this is somebody that works for the North Korean or the Russian government who says, this is a way to create issues, to create a divide in American society that is wholly synthetic, that would not exist except for, this outside force acting.
Absolutely. As scary as that is, I would love to hear a little bit more of how I can make myself look a little bit better on these things. Maybe I'll get a little bit better received. But Susan, without breaching confidentiality, can you share some examples or trends you've seen where digital replicas have been involved in some legal disputes?
Sure. I mean, I don't personally have that, but I can just relay what has occurred in the public. We've already talked about Taylor Swift. My girl was on Congress as an aide. When that Taylor Swift video came out, they were inundated with calls in Congress, to take that down. So Swiftie fans, they can react big time in bulk. So we've heard that. We've heard about the fake Biden robocalls. We've heard about Nancy Pelosi, her slurring speech on the floor. All that was videos that were created without her consent using digital replicas. Recently, June 2024, Trump was in a campaign video released by Ron DeSantis in which he appears to be hugging and kissing Anthony Fauci. No, never happened. So it's all the way from political misinformation to defamation. We talked about Tom Cruise video falsely depicting him doing a series of stunts and statements that, again, he did not consent to. And, the celebrities are really at attack, as well as some of these music performers. So it has to stop, folks. It has to stop. It's not fair to any person to have their name, image, and likeness be held hostage or apprehended.
Yeah. And if I could just add one thing on that, what happened to Taylor Swift is horrible. And there is not one person in the world that is better equipped to have that happen to them than Taylor Swift is. And so imagine when that happens to your son or daughter's classmate, when it happens to a kid that doesn't have the means, doesn't have that kind of team. And I think that's the real harm. And not that I don't feel bad for Taylor Swift, but there are a lot of people that can find themselves in much worse situations.
Now, I think I know exactly what you mean. As the grassroots professional in the office, I could only dream to have her grassroots presence and the strength that the Swifties have together. But we have sort of mentioned that there's real problems that exist in this field. And it seems like there's a bill that is about to be introduced or is almost introduced now called the No Fakes Act. What is your assessment on that, Andrew? And does it address the key gaps you encounter to help fix some of these problems?
I think the No Fakes Act does both help address these gaps, and I think it's beneficial, and it's long been, from my understanding, I don't speak on behalf of the whole ABA about everything it's ever done, the ABA's position that we should have a national right of publicity law, both because it will give more protection to individuals across the country, but it also gives more certainty to legitimate businesses that use people's name, image, and likeness. Because now those businesses, have to deal with what the law is in California and what the law is in Mississippi. If you're going to put an ad on television that plays nationwide, you got to be in compliance with every state's name, image, and likeness law. And so it's helpful there. What the No Fakes Act does is it looks to hold companies and individuals liable if they produce unauthorized digital replicas. It can hold platforms liable for hosting these digital replicas, but it does have a little bit of a safe harbor provision. It's almost like the notice and takedown that you see in copyright in order to try to help ensure that like these platforms don't just say, well, we're not going to let you post any audio or any video because we could have potential liability. It gives a safe harbor to those platforms to act. It excludes certain digital replicas from coverage based on the First Amendment. And I think the First Amendment is incredibly important thing to take up and not an easy issue in this area, because while there may be digital replicas we like and those that we hate, there also may be some we don't like that are protected speech. And it's part of what, America is founded on, is that we're going to allow that protected speech, whether we like it or not. And this law would largely preempt the state laws, but it works basically in conjunction with Tennessee and California state law. You're going to see certain states that tend to have a lot of celebrities, a lot of people in the entertainment industry in them, California and New York, Tennessee, that have more robust laws. And each of those states has an original sponsor of the No Fakes bill when it was introduced in a previous Congress, either in the House or the Senate. And I expect it will be submitted again shortly.
Sounds great. And so we know the No Fakes Act introduces some platform liability under certain circumstances. How significant is this shift, and how might it impact the tech and entertainment sectors?
So Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, we all know about Section 230. It creates this platform liability carve-out. But Section 230 never applied to intellectual property rights. So Section 230 doesn't apply to those rights. So we already have this with trademark, with copyright law all the time. And this right of publicity really is an intellectual property right. So it makes sense that it would be something for which platforms can have liability. And certainly in the early days of platforms, we saw a lot of liability that fell, where there was user uploaded content. But all those platforms have developed really robust, strong systems to avoid infringements now, or copyright management programs to allow entertainment companies to tag and capture any profits, and any payments for those users. So I think we would see a similar thing if this law were to pass. And we just have a much more sophisticated social media environment in 2025 than we did in 2005, right? When we saw these things really start to go. So I don't think there would be significant platform liability. And we've seen at least some companies that have social media platforms that support the No Fakes Act.
I just wanted to add, I didn't acknowledge where I sit. I'm sitting in New Jersey right now. I work for AT&T. We signed, Governor Murphy, 2 days ago, their own Deepfakes Act. Criminal and civil penalties will apply for unauthorized digital replicas. So we are joining, I think now it's 45 states. But again, lack of coherency, inconsistency in enforcement. We want to avoid that and go for a federal law if possible.
Yeah, and I think there's a big difference, right? When you sit in New Jersey, you have a specific law. I'm a Tennessee licensed lawyer. Tennessee has the Elvis Act, very specific law, very robust canon of case law about the right of publicity. But I sit in Mississippi, and I'm also a Mississippi licensed lawyer. There are 4 reported right of privacy cases in Mississippi. So good luck advising your clients on exactly what the metes and bounds of the law are.
I think you both have mentioned some great state laws, and the bill suggests a federal standard sort of preempting some of these state laws. From your experience, is a uniform national approach more helpful than approaching it in this state-based respect, or is it a little bit more risky? Susan, if you don't mind.
Sure. I believe there's benefits for this federal law: consistency, comprehensive protection, effective law enforcement, and public awareness. Then trying to handle 51 diverse set of laws would be really difficult and, need tremendous resources. So yes, is there a downside? The downside is flexibility, implementation challenges, potential overreach, and of course the state preemption law. And maybe the federal law won't keep up with the technology advancements, as states may be better equipped to do this. So there's a balancing act, but if I had to say something right now as to where to go, let's go with the federal law.
So then talking a little bit more about the technological tools surrounding these digital replicas, are there technological solutions being developed to help detect or prevent unauthorized digital replicas? And can these complement legal protections?
So I'll jump in, but I want Andrew to jump in. He's done all the research on the different tools. But let me tell you, I come from a very technological, we have AT&T Labs invented the transistor. We have a closed loop AI that we're allowed to use. It's got scanning for plagiarism. We take this really serious, someone's IP. So we are not allowed to use any of the publicly available chat GPTs or any AI. We're only in an AI closed loop system. But anyhow, what tools are out there? There's deep fake detection algorithms, digital watermarking, metadata analysis, biometric authentication, public awareness, legal and regulatory frameworks. So I'm going to have Andrew go into the actual tools that are out there now that Andrew is aware of, because he practices this every day.
Yeah, so I think Microsoft might be the leader in this, but every big tech company is working on tools in this area. And most of the big tech companies, including OpenAI, somebody who obviously is very pro generative artificial intelligence, is the leader of that, the worldwide leader. They formed the Coalition of Content Provenance and Authenticity in order to try to put some guardrails on that. We have Microsoft has partnered with the BBC to work on how do we make sure that digital replicas are not being used for disinformation as it relates to the news. One of Susan's children is at UVA. UVA has a really interesting program right now that they're working on really to help the government and companies that want to put out a press release where you can put a pixel type marker in the metadata of things that you actually release. When you put out that video that says our CEO is making this announcement, so that people can go and see this is an authentic statement from our CEO. I had the opportunity to go to a really interesting program at the Rochester, but presented by the folks from the Rochester Institute of Technology. There's a PhD candidate there who has built a system which he is providing free to newsrooms, where when they get a picture, right, there's a very famous picture of Princess Kate that had been photoshopped that, that the AP and other news outlets put up, and then they took back because they realized that it was not, an authentic picture of her that hadn't been digitally altered. And it helps news organizations make that determination. Has this photo been altered? What's the likelihood? What leads us to believe that there may be something altered here? And a number of universities and companies offer this, but RIT's program, they work with a philosophy professor. They go out and do trainings. I participated in one of these trainings where you work through, like, how do you decide what to publish? How do you decide what to report on when there's a chance, but it's uncertain whether or not a video recording is real or not? And there's also a company called TruePic, and they'll do an audit of the pictures and videos that you might have in a library to determine, hey, when you use this 10 years from now to illustrate something, is this an authentic thing that has actually happened?
We've talked about a lot of different technologies here and a few different approaches that we can kind of take to maybe mitigating some of these risks. What would you each say are the top 2 or 3 things you would advise congressional staff to consider when refining legislation like the No Fakes Act? Andrew, if you don't mind starting.
But the 2 things that I would say to consider are, I think it's really important, and I think the No Fakes Act does this, gets at non-commercial content, because digital replicas aren't new. We've had, as long as we've had digital movies, we've had, false depictions of people, but it costs millions of dollars to put those things on. You need a green screen, all this technology. And now for $40 on the dark web, you can get, intimate images of horrible, horrible things that depict what appear to be real people, and not necessarily for a commercial purpose. And that's one weakness that I think the current law has, is it was limited to commercial purposes. And then the second thing is, I think the First Amendment is a real concern, and it is important that whatever laws we pass in this area seriously grapple with people's rights to comment on information that is important to the public, to comment on politics, to comment on these other things, and to use this technology to do it. And there's a very interesting opinion that enjoined California's law, in a case called Coles v. Bonta or Bonita. I'm not sure how you pronounce the last name there, about some deepfake or digital replicas that were made by an ex-user, formerly Twitter, during the 2024 presidential campaign. And the court found that those were protected by the First Amendment and were made illegal by California's law, so enjoined that law. So looking at that opinion, which I think does a really good job of got to protect people's ability to make whatever their comments are about the politics and life and culture in the United States.
Susan, any thoughts from your end?
Sure. I guess it's stated in our resolution, and it's stated by Andrew as well. Please include strong safeguards to ensure, our compatibility with First Amendment. We don't want this to chill folks, but we want it to protect a person's livelihood. I don't care if you're Taylor Swift or you're the cashier in a ShopRite. We need to protect all citizens. And again, address the right of publicity and privacy when discussing this, which I believe they are. But, that's the countervailing balance you got to consider.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both. And I am about to go ahead and kick it to our IP lobbyist, Chris Katopis, who can tell us a lot more of what's going on in Congress and what we can do for some next steps. But before we do that, Andrew, Susan, any final thoughts?
Let's act, Congress. Let's do it. You still have time. AI is here to stay.
Yeah, and I think we should thank the members of Congress who have drafted a good bill. Nobody's going to say it's a perfect bill. There are no perfect bills. But this is a hard area of law to get into. This might be one of the great technological breakthroughs of the 21st century. And I think that Congress has worked hard, has studied hard, and said, we're going to make sure we can have innovation and we're going to protect people. And we really do appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Susan, for that insightful discussion. You've helped us understand not only the complexity of digital replicas and intellectual property law in the age of AI, but also what's really at stake for individuals and creators for the industry. As we wrap up today's panel, we want to leave you with some next steps, particularly for those who are joining us from Capitol Hill, our advocacy organizations, to help connect the legal challenges we've explored with ongoing legislative efforts. I am pleased to introduce Chris Katopis, the American Bar Association's expert in intellectual property and technology law, to Congress. Chris serves as a trusted voice with the ABA on policy matters related to copyright, digital rights, and the intersection of emerging technologies and the law. Chris, do you mind letting us know any next steps or any final thoughts we could take towards Congress?
Well, thank you all for today's program. On behalf of the ABA and the IP Law Section, we appreciate your attendance of today's program. The IP Law Section is proud to continue its tradition of advocacy on issues at the cutting edge of law and technology, including issues regarding the internet governance, blockchain, biotechnology, fashion in the law, so many things that we advocate upon, and now most recently, AI. Earlier this year, as you heard, the IP Law Section developed a resolution regarding digital replicas, and in February, the ABA House of Delegates approved this resolution on behalf of the entire ABA. As Congress continues to work, we expect a number of bills to be introduced to address the problem of digital replicas. We are pleased to learn that a bipartisan group of senators, including Senators Coons, Tillis, and Blackburn, are planning on reintroducing the No Fakes bill later this month. Other digital replica bills and deepfake bills are also expected to be reintroduced. The ABA is pleased to support the No Fakes Act and other related digital replica legislation. We urge ABA members to contact their members of Congress and echo and amplify upon our support of the No Fakes Act and legislation to fight the problem of digital replicas. For more information, please contact the ABA Government Affairs Office or join the IP Law Section. Thank you, Eric. Thank you to our speakers.
Thank you all. And I might add, thank you everyone for joining ABA Day and for continuing the advocacy past today alone. I would instruct you to maybe look at the links below this recording or in the chat for a letter that you can send to Congress in support of the No Fakes Act through our congressional messaging portal. If you send this letter through our portal, it is guaranteed to get through any and all spam filters for Capitol Hill and directly to the staffers in the office that actually are handling this bill. So with that, I would love to thank all of you for joining us today, and thank you all for our panelists.